Gypsy says, unless you want to do it tonight, like the late part of the night. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Lindsay Unfiltered. Guys, and we are back with the final part of the Gypsy Rose and Nicholas Godejohn text message exchange. Now, guys, this is the final part, but I would like to acknowledge that part 2 got a lot of feedback, over 1,200 views, and I really want to thank everybody for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. To all 249 of my subscribers, thank you. If you enjoy the content, give it a like, comment, and subscribe. I also talk about true crime, scandals, controversy, and the like. We talk about unfiltered topics, unprecedented topics, things that are going to make you think. Now, with that being said, we've gone through parts 1 and 2 because it's a 400-page document. So if you want to catch those other videos, part 1 and part 2, go to my Gypsy Rose and Blanchard playlist. They will be in there, so you can follow in chronological order with us, okay? I also want to thank everyone. My goal for this month was to hit 250 subscribers, and I did that. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will take this thing as far as we can take it, guys. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm reading all of your comments, and if you have any suggestions or anything of the like, let me know. I am open ears. Well, not right now, but you know what I mean. But let's not waste any more time. Hey guys, we're back, and this is the third and final part. Now, here we have Tuesday, June 9th, 2015. Nick says, thanks for the laugh, dear. Gypsy says, hey, I can't help it, you're a sweetie. Nick says, well then, would a sweetheart like a sweetie? Gypsy says, I would, sweetie. Nick says, then ask daddy politely, sweetheart. Gypsy said, may I have daddy's sweetness, please? Nick says, yes, you may, dear. But warning, once you taste it, you wouldn't want anything. You'll be so addicted to it, darling. Ooh. Anything else, he says. Ooh, wow, that's a lot to digest. Wink, wink. Gypsy says, I'm fine with being daddy's little addict. Nick says, that's daddy's girl. Gypsy then says, LOL. Nick says, why the laughter, hun? Gypsy says, 'cause I'm so happy. Nick says, that's a great reason, dear. Gypsy smiles and sends a heart. Nick says LOL, sends a heart, smiles, and sends another heart. Gypsy says, sweetness, I'm gonna go take my meds. Nick says, okay, dear. Nick says, update, I'm in St. Louis, honey. Gypsy says, yay! Nick says, yes, dear. Literally saying yay, and you know what he's coming here to do is diabolical. It's freaking-bolical. Nick says, yes, dear. Update, sweetie, I'm about to be on my way to Springfield. Update, sweetheart, I'm on my way to Springfield now. Gypsy said, my heart just leapt out now. Nick said, why is that, hun? Because I want to know why, dear. It seems as if Nick, let me try to sit up straight. I need to get my posture correct. It seems as if Nick is giving Gypsy many outs. Like, why is your heart about to beat out of your chest, dear? He's giving her many outs to say, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. That's my unfiltered opinion, guys. I could be wrong, but I hope it's a good reason, dear, or you'll worry me. And then he says, please tell me soon, honey. You don't need me worried about you. And then she says, darling, it's because I'm so happy. You near. Gypsy says, I'm perfectly wonderful. Nick says, okay, dear, I was scared for a moment there, but now I'm blissful, sweetie. Nick says, true, baby, I'm getting close. Heart. Gypsy says, so am I, darling. Nick says, great, because that's always how I want you, honey. Gypsy says, try and get some sleep on the bus, hon. Nick says, nah, I'll just get it at the hotel, sweetie. Gypsy says, okay, darling, well, I'll check back later. I may sleep for a bit. Think you get to town at 5:15. This is about 2 hours before he gets to town. Nick says, okay, baby, you know I'll keep you updated. Gypsy says, darling, I don't think the hotel takes check-ins until 11. Nick says, no, they do. I'll just have to pay a bit more, hun. Gypsy says, okay, darling, good. Gypsy says, by the way, the taxi number is 417-862-5511. And you basically told the cop, he called a taxi and... Oh, by the way, the taxi number is... okay. Seems premeditated to me, but, what do I know? All right, Nick says, yes, sweetie, and I'm walking to the hotel. I've done it before, and it saves money. But thanks for the number, hun. Okay. Update, I'm in Springfield, baby. Gypsy, yay! Okay, you guys, they had this plan. So y'all are celebrating, having an all-out text message celebratory party here because he's there to unalive your mother. All right. Gypsy says, I was asleep. Gypsy says, you're at the hotel, hun? Nick says, yes, sweetie, but it was extra expensive. Gypsy says, that's fine, hun, as long as you're safe. Weird words coming from you. Nick says, I'm safe, but hun, I may barely make it to you tomorrow. I'm under $200. Gypsy says, you'll make it. How much is a night tomorrow, hun? Gypsy says, you're not far from me, maybe 4 mills. What the hell's a mill? Nick says, well, I had to pay $140 for one night because I was early, dear. Gypsy says, unless you want to do it tonight, like the late part of the night. I didn't even know she said that shit. Question mark. It would have to be. Gypsy says, it's the only way to get you money and everything go like we planned. Oh, wow. Let's read it again. Let's read it again for the people in the back. For the people, you guys, back there on the couch, in the bed, you with no shoes on. You should put some shoes on. Gypsy said, unless you want to do it tonight, like the late part of tonight. What is she talking about? Instant headache right there. Instant earache. My ear just popped when she said that. I mean, I am getting over COVID, but this is making me sick. It's making me ill. He says $50 of the dollars I should get back, though, because it's a safety deposit, hon. And then he says, it all matters on the soonest you want to see me, hon. Gypsy then says, tonight, hun, your mom is like pissed and worried. Call her. She messaged me to get you to call her now. The mom's spidey senses are tingling. The mother's intuition is going like this. Rest in peace to her. I heard that she passed away. I did not confirm it for myself, but I've heard at least 10 to 15 people say it or seen it on social media. So I heard that she took her own life, which is absolutely terrible. And this situation could have had something to do with it. So I'm not going to say it did. I don't know if she struggled with mental health issues, but she could have before the incident. But something like this is a huge stressor to add on top of it. So am I wrong for saying that Gypsy and Nick took the lives of two? Is that too edgy? Moving right along. I'm not going to stay on that too long. Nick says, I already talked to her, dear. Everything is fine. You need to answer my question, though, honey. Gypsy says, I will text you. We are doing this tonight, hun. It won't be until like later in the AM time. So get your rest, darling. Get your rest, baby. You got a lot of work to do. We are doing this tonight, hun. It won't be until later, like in the AM. She's orchestrating this. She's telling him, you're not going to get to kick your feet up for a night like you thought. You're not going to get to kick your feet up for a night like you thought, right? For at least a night and relax in Springfield. You're coming here and you're doing this as soon as you get here. Sick. Are you ratiocinating? Ratiocinating is to think, everyone. It's the SAT word. Okay? Are you ratiocinating while you're writing this? You're not thinking while writing? You had a long cool down period. Right? All of the planning and the divisive thing. You had a long cool down period. And as these words are being typed from your fingertips, day after day after day, you're not reading and ratiocinating that this is your mother we're speaking on. No. All right. Let's continue. Nick says, baby, should I still get the room tomorrow? Gypsy says, well, we would have more money, so yes, hon. She's referring to the money of her mother's. I think it was around $5,000 that she'd stolen after they unalived her. After they took her mother's life, they took her money. So, okay, it's no big deal to buy another room. Nick says, what about sneaking you in, dear? Gypsy says, I will, hun. Why are y'all being so cheap? Why are y'all just breaking all of these laws all of a sudden now? Like, you said you were going to have extra money. Now you just need to sneak in. Like, I am so confused at how they think right now. And I'm trying not to go too hard because I have to remind myself that this did happen 9 years ago. And this woman did serve 9 years in penitentiary, and this man is in penitentiary right now serving time. But you have to look at the facts, right? People can go, like I said, time and time again, people can go down a rabbit hole of if it was justified or not, or whatever they might want to go down, rabbit hole after rabbit hole. But we need to look at the facts, and the facts are what's in front of us, the evidence in the case. A lot of TikTokers are now revealing and seeing the crime scene photos, and they're like, somebody just leaked the No, they didn't, baby. Them photos have been out. So for TikTokers who think that just came out, I don't think those crime scene photos just came out. They're bringing them to the limelight because Gypsy is on social media now. When I saw it, that's why I told you guys the state of her house. There's no way I could show that on YouTube. No way. And people on TikTok are seeing it and they're like, oh my God, now that I see this, there's no way I could support her now that I've seen the leaked. You guys knew what happened. Like, you guys knew the story. You knew the story. What did you guys think, it was done peacefully? Give me a break. You have got to be kidding me. Now, that's what it took for you to be like, oh, I don't support her. You knew the facts, baby. It took you to see a picture? A picture's worth 1,000 words. Is that what it is? You shouldn't have needed to see it to know that it was very much real. You need to look at the facts, not go down rabbit holes about who, what, when, where, and how. Let's get back into this. Nick says, what about sneaking you in, dear? Gypsy says, I will, hun. Gypsy says, I am not forbidden from your room. Nick says, you mean we will, dear. Nick says, baby, you won't be. Gypsy says, yes, we will, hun. Did you bring your computer, hun? If you look up where you're at in my house, we are close. Nick says, honey, you always know I bring my computer. Gypsy says, okay, good, hun. I just told your mom you're perfectly fine. You lied. Nick said, that's good, dear. Gypsy said, hun, does he require just the Groves and knife? Groves? Nick says, hun, that side of me expects duct tape too to muffle her. Gypsy says, okay, baby, we have that. Gypsy says, I'll pre-cut it. Nick says, that's good, dear. However, he expects you to give him the full roll. Gypsy says, I will. We only have black bondage tape and Minnie Mouse duct tape. Nick says, he said the Minnie Mouse duct tape, hun. Gypsy says, okay, hun. On the cell towers. Pinging on the cell towers, baby. Pinging off the cell towers, baby. You have got to be kidding me. Nick says, dear, I should ask you this before he has to. Is your mom a light or deep sleeper? Gypsy says, light, hun. Nick says, okay, dear. Now he's excited. Gypsy says, she sleeps on her tummy, like I said, but light sleeper, hun. Gypsy then says, the shit's gonna go down tonight, Ruby said. Oh, God. Okay, Nick says, what does she mean by that, dear? Please let me know as soon as you can, hun. Gypsy said, it means it all happens tonight. Nick says, how does Ruby feel about it, hun? Gypsy says, she keeps me numb in order to cope and survive, hun, keeping me focused. You're determined. It's like a puzzle to you. It's like a puzzle to the 24-year-old Gypsy Rose. Now, Gypsy Rose today, can she feel regret? Yes. Can she feel remorse? Yes. But could she have done something really, really bad? Really, 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 really bad? Really, really heinous that would make it hard to trust her? Yes. She could wish this never happened, but the bad thing is that it did. And that might be hard for some people to move on from. And if you're not her family, you don't owe that to her to move on. Now, if you're her family, you kind of have to. But if you're the public eye, you don't owe her that. So you can't get mad at people that don't agree with you either way it goes. Like I said, you can't get mad. If you're on one side or the other, don't go online arguing with other people. Because both sides are going to find valid points somewhere. And the side that's against her has a lot of valid points. A lot. And I'm reading them right now. Nick says, okay, dear, I guess she seems to be learning how to deal with him slowly then. Gypsy says, for motivation's sake, bring your A game, hon. This is life with me on the line. Bring your A game. You can do it, champ. Gypsy says, yes, hun. Each part is a slow lover and learner, maybe not Candy. Nick says, babe, it's my evil side doing it. He won't mess up because he enjoys killing. Has your evil side ever done this to anybody else before? How do you know that? How do you know that, Nick? And then Nick says, why you say that about Candy, dear? Gypsy says she loves fast. What? And then Nick says, so she'll attach onto him instantly, dear? Yes, I mean my dom side, dear. Gypsy says, exactly, hon. Nick says, okay, baby, as long as it's only to him and she would use other guys, or he will see to put her in her place quickly, dear. Gypsy says, that's right, hon. Nick says, good, dear. Nick says, baby, please make sure and read that last message and answer it, please. Gypsy says, hi, sweetie, just checking on you. Nick says, hey, dear, I miss you too. Now, see, it's getting later here. Nick says, guess you didn't have time to answer me, hon. And then he says, this night is going by slow. And then Gypsy says, oh, I'm preparing. Nick says, I see. Nick says, talk to you later, I guess, hon. I say this because you're obviously busy. Then Gypsy says, LOL, okay, baby. And then Nick says, why the laughter? I don't get it. I don't get it either. No explanation, I see. Today is really falling apart. Wow. Obviously, you're not as lonely without me as I am without you, because you're not truly communicating with me. And you have no idea how painful it is to me. And you wouldn't be laughing at me. Gypsy says, darling, I'm getting naked in the tub. I was only excited. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just happy. I'm in the tub, hun. Nick says, sorry, dear. I guess I'm missing you too much. It's overwhelming me. I've seen this text message like 50 million times. But it says, Gypsy says, I left the gloves outside the front door, and the screen door is squeaky, S-K-W-E-E-K-Y. So try to open it just enough to get in and close it gentle. I miss you too. Soon, sweetheart. And then Gypsy says, I'll hand him the knife and duct tape inside, darling. It's pre-cut and ready. So what this tells me is it was 100% premeditated, and Gypsy had a large role to do in that planning, as we know. She was charged with it, right? And on this day, June 9th, she made it a point that it had to be this day. She made it a point to have everything ready. The gloves, the knife. She even took the time to pre-cut her Minnie Mouse duct tape. She took the time to do that. And all this time that she was gathering her materials, pre-cutting her Minnie Mouse duct tape, she wasn't ratiocinating. It wasn't going through her mind. I'm doing this to hurt the person that loves me. Say what you want. Say what you want about Dee Dee having Munchausen. Her last words were screaming her daughter's name. I don't think to this day that Dee Dee thought that Gypsy handed that perpetrator the knife to do what he did to her. I still do not think that. She maybe thought my daughter is in danger. My daughter can come help me. Something of that nature. She didn't know where it was coming from, right? Or maybe she did. But I believe she loved her daughter. I believe that Gypsy loved her mother. I don't know how to explain this outside of mental illness. I really don't. And evil, demonic forces. Gypsy says, did your mom know about me going back with you, hon? Nick says, dear, you're telling all this to my evil side, since he's the one who agreed to do it. Dear, I was open to her about that a long time ago. And she's letting me make life decisions by myself with you, hon. She trusts me. She just doesn't know the full, dear. Full plan. Full plan, dear. Does her floor squeak, hon? Yes, he wanted me to ask you. Gypsy says, no, hon, it's all carpet. Gypsy says, tell him my private parts are shaved. Nick says, okay, baby, he's excited to do this. Nick says, okay, baby, he's excited to do this. What about the rest of your bottom half, is what he had me ask you. Gypsy said, I will do my legs as soon as he knocks, hon. Nick says, okay, baby. Don't be alarmed if he speaks, because yes, it sounds evil, hon. Gypsy says, okay, darling. Gypsy says, I'm going to go eat, hon. Nick says, that's daddy's good girl. Gypsy says, I'm doing my nails too. Nick says, well, dear did say he expects you to look like his woman should, so that is a good idea, darling. Red fingernail polish, hon? Dear, to please him, I suggest you wear red lipstick too, hon. Just trying to help you out, baby. Gypsy says, I don't have any, hon. And Gypsy says, I'm painting him a dark pink, hon. It goes with my pink boots. Nick says, lip gloss, hon? Possibly pink if you want him to be a magnet to you. Well, pink makes him a magnet to you, dear. Gypsy says, I have pink lip gloss, hon. Nick says, if you want him to be a magnet to you, then wear it, dear. Gypsy says, okay, hon. Nick says, so will you, hon? Or how do you wish to present yourself to him? Nick says, answer that question when you get the chance to, dear, as long as you answer it. Nick also says, hon, you still haven't answered that question. I'm still waiting. Gypsy says, I'll just be in my nightgown with painted pink nails and lip gloss. Nick says, okay, dear, but when he gets you from the bathroom, I suggest you are naked when he sees you after the deed. Gypsy says, okay, darling. I won't say goodnight online. I want to say it in person, hon. Nick says, that's understandable, darling, along with our first real goodnight kiss, sweetie. Gypsy says, exactly, daddy. Nick says, oh, that never gets old when you call me daddy, sweetie. Gypsy says, you should get some sleep, hun. Mom goes to bed at like 4 a.m. Nick says, honey, I got too much sleep already. Gypsy says, okay, darling, I'll wear you out. Nick then says, hun, don't forget you got to deal with my evil side first before we have our fun. So he may wear you out because if you forgot, he is the most sexual part of me. Please don't forget that, dear. Then I wear you out even more, honey. Gypsy says, okay, darling, I understand. Nick says, I'm glad you do, baby. I'll enjoy just being able to touch your silky skin. Gypsy says, I can't wait to be with you too, darling. But you know, if we want to wait for sex, we have all day tomorrow, just so you know. You know, after my deal. Nick says, honey, our nicknames as a couple is Mr. and Mrs. Sex. Nick says, so what do you think I'm thinking, dear? Gypsy says, I know what you're thinking, hon. You'll have me as much as you can. Nick says, darling, see, we'll true to our nicknames as a couple, honey. Because I know you won't want it any other way, honey. Right, dear? I guess you're not there, hon. Hope you're back soon. Gypsy says, right, darling, but can we take our time, hon? Nick says, we will be able to at the hotel, sweetheart. Gypsy says, okay, sweetheart, I hope I look pretty. Nick says, honey, you always look appealing to me. Gypsy says, I hope so, hon. I'm shaking. SHAKEING. I am nervous. I guess it's the if it all goes okay. Nick says, baby, it will. And you better the not just romantic wife of mine, but also my twin flame female daughter soulmate that you were meant to be, honey. So were they in Twin Flames universe? That would explain some of this. What? Twin flame female daughter? What the hell does that mean? Okay, Gypsy says, I am daddy, just as a backup. If it doesn't go right, run out of the house as fast as you can, hon. Nick says, baby, there is no other option. He is going to finish her, no matter what that is, how he is. Gypsy says, okay, darling, he is brave. I respect and admire that. Gypsy smiles. Gypsy says, okay, darling, he is brave. I respect and admire that. Gypsy said, how's the bed? Is it soft, hon? Nick says, honey, you forgot, though, he is ruthless and his hatred of her will force her to die, hon. And then he says, you'll enjoy it, baby. He's talking about the bed. Gypsy says, what will you be wearing, hon? Nick says, something that will terrify her, hon. It's all black, and my evil side picked a full outfit, darling. Gypsy said, okay, darling, I just have to remember it's still you. Nick said, yes, the darkness in me, dear, just like Ruby is the darkness in you, honey. Gypsy, but after we comfort each other. Nick says, after we do that, sweetheart, I'll hold you like the baby girl of mine you are. Gypsy says, and we will be happy soon after this night. We never bring it up. Nick says, baby, we shouldn't accept the part about us meeting, honey. Gypsy says, right, hun. Nick says, I knew we were clicking on the right, honey. Huh? Right tone. Oh, okay. Right tone, honey. Oh, okay. Heart. Okay. Nick says, sorry for confusing you, dear, but I hope you know what I meant. Hopefully you answer soon, dear. That day was full of evidence. Wow. Y'all are bad shit for that. That was hard to read. Some of that was just hard to swallow after. Okay, so we are on Wednesday, June 10th, and Gypsy starts off top of the morning talking about some goddamn, I know what you mean, hun. It's getting close to the time she took her sleep aid pill. And then Nick says, okay, baby, I'm trying to calculate the money for the ride. There. Gypsy then says, and once you're inside the house, we stay silent. Not even a whisper. Until after I open the bathroom door. Okay, sir? Okay, hun? Probably $10. Nick says, dear, never underestimate his will to kill. And also give me your address so I make sure I have the right one. Gypsy says, I just want to say this. Thank you. You're my hero. And I will never leave you. I'm staying with you for eternity. And then Nick says, okay, baby. But he hasn't said anything yet, dear. And Nick says, thank you, sweetheart. Gypsy says, my house has the ramp and the front porch is painted white. Nick says, okay, dear. Gypsy says, you're welcome, my twin flame soulmate. I have said my I love you to her. I am at peace. Nick says, I'm proud of you, sweetie, and I'm glad I could help. Gypsy said, will you need an anxiety med to calm you after, hon? No. People who do that, Gypsy, it doesn't give them anxiety, baby. Gypsy says, you're the most important person to me, sweetie. You're like me. Fight for what you want and need. Nick says, dear, I don't believe in meds, see? I seem to be immune to them. But you just do what I taught you and I'll calm down if it is me. But just listen and obey my evil side and you'll calm him down. Within time. Gypsy says, I hope he loves me too, not just Ruby. Oh, Gypsy, were you thinking he would attack you too? Gypsy says, I got pain med for my back and I exercise my legs, so I'm a bit weak walking, but I'll build strength. Nick says, no, you mean to say you're like daddy. It could be part of why you're a daddy's good girl, but you're more like daddy than you may realize, dear. Gypsy says, I'm not used to my weight of walking. Gravity is new. Nick says, I believe in you, honey, as I always have. So I know someday you'll walk completely normal. He was right about that. Gypsy says, I just realized the next New Year's I'll be able to kiss you. No, I've never had a New Year's kiss. Gypsy says, I need to practice kissing. We were like two fish going for one hook. Gypsy said she's drifting off to sleep. Is there anything you need to know, hun? Nick says, and as for him loving you, my evil side does. However, you must obey him without question, unless you don't know what to do. Otherwise, obey him without question, dear, and someday he'll worship you too. Baby, we're natural at kissing. We just need more time to prove it. Gypsy said, what the will he allow me to wet your stick before he takes me, hun? I don't know if he's going to do A or V, and I was hoping to do A with you first. Nick says, not that I can think of, dear, except you're letting him in the front, darling. Gypsy says, because at the hotel we can go slow. Oh, and you may not need to put on the gloves, because we will sink it so it's never found. And yes, front. Sink it so it's never found. I don't know what she means by that. Nick then says, dear, when he sexually assaults, he takes all parts of the body. So he'll most likely do A to you, hun. Nick says, he is still going to put the gloves on, dear. Gypsy says, will he at least put Selva so I don't get traumatized, hun? Sellva. Saliva? Nick then says, remember to take my words to heart, dear. Just listen and obey him without question, and he won't traumatize you. But if you aren't a good girl, he will then do it. It just depends on how well you listen to him, dear. Gypsy then says, I'll listen to him, darling. It's go time. Are you ready? And then she says, no matter what, I'm yours forevermore. That's a lie. And then Nick says, and thanks for answering the question, hun. So should I call the cab, dear? I love, adore, and worship you, my everything. And then Gypsy gives him the go ahead and says, yes, call the cab. She was in the go ahead. She picked the day. She got all the materials ready. She gave him the green light on everything. And then Nick says, I understand, dear, as I am the same. Nick says, I love, adore, and worship you too, my everything, times infinity. Nick says, okay, baby, see you soon, dear. Gypsy says, by the way, the gloves are blue, and how long must I hold my ears, hun? Nick says, 5 at most, dear, and the next text will be from him. Gypsy says, okay, darling, I'll talk to you when this is all done. Nick says, yes, hun. Gypsy says, sir, will you text me once you're at the door with gloves on? Gypsy says she's sleeping very light. At 2:07. It didn't take him long. He texts Gypsy and says, I'm here, and you get your ass to the bathroom. You open the door. Gypsy says, yes, sir. I'm going now, sir. Breaths once. And those are all the text messages I have. So we can conclude from that maybe around 2:10 or so is when Dee Dee Blanchard was murdered. I read every single text message that they had in this file. And it was not easy to do so because there were some surprises to me here. I hadn't read everything in here. quite a stressful thing to read, quite a stressful thing to go through. Part 3 marks on the unadulterated planning. The planning. Him getting to Springfield. Gypsy basically noticing that Nick doesn't have enough money to stay a day and chill out there. So she changes the plan that Nick had to come and do it that night. She got all of his materials ready. She pre-cut the duct tape. And he's switching in and out of these two personalities with her. And basically saying it's this evil personality that's doing this. And she's basically saying she loves him so much for doing this for her. Absolutely not okay. Absolutely deranged. Absolutely delusional. Absolutely sick. I don't know what I just read, but it's going to give me nightmares, I'm sure. But to read it gives you a better understanding. Paired with the interrogation, it gives you a better understanding. Since I came out with my should we allow Gypsy Rose to be an influencer video, people told me to watch the interrogation. I did so, and I went a further step and looked at text messages like one of my subscribers told me to do. So I feel like if anybody asks me, if anybody comes up to me and say, well, Lindsay, you don't really know what, I can basically say, hey, I have proof that I know what's going on here, right? So guys, this is some stuff, right? This is some true crime, right? And we talk about scandals on this channel. If you like this type of content, please subscribe. I talk about other scandals. I'm in an A to Z scandal series right now. Gypsy Rose with G. Gypsy Rose was G. So we're kind of going back and forth to Gypsy Rose because my next video will be on J. So not all of them are this heavy and heady. They go from different topics: financial scandals, celebrity scandals, true crime scandals. We just want to talk about all kinds of things that are going to have you scratching your brain. So I want to delve into some cults, some cult theory and things of that nature. How do people get brainwashed and what lead them to follow these people mindlessly. And if that's the type of content you're interested in, go ahead, give me a like, give me a follow, give me a share, and let's run those numbers up so we can get that content going, guys. I really enjoyed doing this 3-part series with you guys. I thank you so much for all of your likes, your comments, your shares, and your views. And give me your thoughts about Gypsy Rose in the comments. Anything you want to say about her. Anything you want to say about Gypsy Rose, put it in the comments. If you want to make a comment about how you support her, how you don't support her, if you want to make a comment about her being an influencer, her upcoming pregnancy, her marriage, just put it in the comments and let's just talk about that. Make it a space for that, or make it a space for her mental health status or things of that nature that really do need to be touched on. Now that she's a free woman, we need to touch on other topics as well when it comes to her. And if you want to see me cover anything else Gypsy Rose related, put that in the comments as well for me, guys. Well, thank you guys so much. And this has been Lindsay Unfiltered. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.